He is the one player that has more influence on me than anybody I've ever met. And he's truly a blessing in my life. Guys, I'm talking about Ronnie Lott.
He was my roommate, and obviously I always, in a sense, feel like I was probably the luckiest guy alive to be roomed with him. He took out his ambition and aspirations, of being one of the greatest ever that played a game, on me. You look at all the interceptions that he's got. He always saw the ball.
Boy was a recruiter for the Air Force, and I was a mailman. I knew Ronnie from 8 years old. I had him through basketball and baseball, but he just liked hitting people. They'd see him coming, and they just fall down, or they'd take the ball and throw it away. They'd keep it from getting hit.
He was a destroyer. I think he realized that, to really play this game at the level and to be recognized as one of the best ever, you have to have a little bit of craze inside you.
When you go play the game of football, it's a violent game. Can you be psychotic and yet under control? Can you be neurotic and yet under control? He
wanted to hurt you. He wanted to hurt your family that was listening. He wanted the entire family to be upset and worried. I mean, that's just the way he played. He would sacrifice his body.
By the end of the year, 1979, the 49ers had gone through 33 defensive backs. It was like a turnstile. I remember talking to Cedric Hardman. He didn't even want to get to know anyone because every week he turned around, there was a new face in the secondary.
This is a guy who utterly refuses to lose. He does not understand the concept of giving up. He does not understand the concept of defeat. And even when we have lost games, when you go back and look at Ronnie Lott's play, he won. He was not dominated, he was not defeated, he was not fooled, he was not tricked. I think if one word really describes Ronnie Lott, it would be supreme determination.
He is a legend of the game, not just a guy who played. He's what the game is all about. Ronnie is the heart and soul of the National Football League. People should remember his name 150 years from now.
Nobody finished the route. That's where the story starts. Not with a hit, not with a knockout, with a receiver, 10-year veteran, seen everything, afraid of nothing, who pulled up halfway through a shallow cross, jogged back to the huddle, and said 2 words to his quarterback. Ronnie Lott is there. That was it. No contact, no collision. Lott was on the opposite side of the field, and a professional whose entire career was built on going where coverage was simply didn't. That doesn't happen in the NFL, except it did every single week for 15 years. If you're new here, hit subscribe. This channel covers the players who didn't just play the game, they permanently changed it. The people talking about Ronnie Lott aren't historians running stats through a database. They are men who lined up on Sundays, ran their routes, made their reads, and discovered, usually once, sometimes twice if they were stubborn, exactly what happened when you entered his territory without total commitment. These are professionals, men paid specifically to be fearless, and they are telling you, without hesitation, without qualification, there was a side of the field they stopped trusting. That testimony doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from somewhere very specific. It comes from the ground. Here's what every single one of them describes first.
The 49ers had just disintegrated as an organization and as a football team. Our defensive backs couldn't be found on the tapes or the film. They weren't there, just a guy catching a pass.
He's been one heck of a teacher, aside from being one great football player. and we kid him and call him the Big Cheese.
I think my greatest asset as a football player is understanding the game, understanding what's happening in every situation of the game. And to me, that's enabled me to be able to make plays in certain situations.
Cincinnati running game was dominating our play at that time. And Nicky Woods, each time he'd get the ball, it seems that he was getting stronger. You could sense it. I was in the press box, and you could sense him taking over the ball game.
He hits people so hard that, I mean, if somebody was to hit my son like that, I'd probably come to the game with a shotgun and shoot him. I mean, but he has no regard to his own physical well-being. He just goes out and he pretends his body is a cannonball and he just explodes into people. So he's an unbelievable person, unbelievably intense. And I think football gives him an opportunity to express that side of his personality.
He was like, Ronnie Lott to the rescue. I mean, how many times has the man done this in his career? But his hit, you just slowed him down a little bit, slowed Icky down a little bit, and it set the tempo for the rest of our defense.
Not the collision, the moment before it. The split second where the route is decided, the ball is in the air, and somewhere in the peripheral vision, number 42 appears, and the calculation happens faster than conscious thought. Veterans describe it the same way rookies do. All pros describe it the same way journeymen do. The details change. The conclusion is always identical. The real damage happened before contact. Here's the part most people get wrong about Lott. They reduce him to the hits. Understandable. The hits were extraordinary, but the hits were never the point. They were the byproduct. Lott entered the league in 1981 as a cornerback, drafted 8th overall by San Francisco, 7 interceptions as a rookie, 3 returned for touchdowns, first-team All-Pro in year 1. In 1985, the 49ers moved him to free safety, and that's when the position itself changed. What Lott did at safety had never been done quite that way before. Actually, he didn't patrol the deep zone and wait. He pre-solved routes, pre-snap. He was already reading the formation, communicating shifts to the defense, eliminating options before the quarterback had finished his cadence. By the time the ball was snapped, Lott wasn't reacting, he was confirming. Then came December 1985, final game of the regular season against Dallas. While tackling running back Timmy Newsome, Lott shattered the tip of his left pinky finger. Playoffs were 2 weeks away. Doctors gave him a choice: bone graft surgery, 8 weeks of recovery, miss the postseason, or amputation of the fingertip, play immediately. Lott chose amputation. 1 week later, he was on the field. He later said he felt sick when he saw what remained and admitted he regretted it. But that decision, made without drama, without ceremony, tells you everything about his operating philosophy. The football mattered more than the finger. Full stop.
He really sacrificed his whole body. He was a kamikaze.
Aiton ricochets off Ronnie Lott.
He didn't want to come out of the game at that time, and he just pulled it off. They put tape on it, he went back in the game. I thought, unbelievable.
Yeah, he went over to the sideline, and, the pinky was literally broken in half, and they're going to take him into the locker room, take him out of the game. He said, the hell with that. Just snap it off. I'm finishing this game.
It was hanging there and said, here, take it.
He effectively jammed his small finger into the face mask and the helmet of the opposing player. So the helmet got underneath his fingernail and really ripped his fingernail off of the finger, broke the finger.
Ronnie Lott will not be back.
So when we saw Ronnie in the office, there was a piece of bone that was missing, some of the skin was missing, and the fingernail was absent. His main concern was when he could get back to play the next weekend.
Offensive coordinators across the NFC spend entire weeks solving the same problem. Where is 42? What does the formation look like when he rotates left? What happens to your tight end on a seam route when Lott is reading his eyes from 15 yards away? Entire route trees got quietly restructured, not because the routes didn't work, but because the destination on the other end had a name and a number that made the math come back wrong every single time. Tight ends who outweighed Lott by 60 pounds ran softer through his zone. Receivers with 10 Pro Bowls on their resume suddenly found the sideline route more appealing than the crossing pattern. All that preparation, all those adjustments, and his response was to lead the NFL in interceptions in 1986, with 10, the best season of his career, the year after he amputated his finger. Strip the collisions away entirely, and what you find underneath is a football mind that processed the game at a speed that made the physical part almost secondary. Lott read defenses and offenses with a precision that teammates described as unsettling. He wasn't just fast, he was early. He arrived at the right place before most defenders had identified where the right place was. 4 Super Bowls, 10 Pro Bowl selections, first team All-Pro 8 times at 3 different positions, cornerback, safety, and free safety. Only one player in NFL history has ever achieved that. The violence everyone remembers was never the weapon. The anticipation was rookie season, 7 interceptions, had 3 touchdowns, Super Bowl ring. The NFL had never seen a defensive back arrive like that. 1984, the 49ers allow the fewest points in the league. Lott is the center of the entire structure. 1986, 10 interceptions in 14 games, post-amputation. The best individual season by a safety in that decade. Postseason, 20 playoff games, 9 interceptions, 2 touchdowns. Quarterbacks stopped trusting half the field. That's not a metaphor. That's a strategic adjustment documented in film sessions across the entire NFC. Get rid of it early. Don't wait. Don't let 42 solve it before you do. That's not a game plan. That's a confession written in chalk on a whiteboard. The receivers who took the hit, the ones who got up, got back to the huddle and quietly told their quarterback, not that route, not tonight, don't say it with bitterness. They say it the way a man describes something that permanently changed how he understood his profession. The quarterbacks who stopped targeting Lott's half of the field made that decision every single week, in every film session, before they ever got to the stadium. That's not avoidance. That's the most honest evaluation a professional can offer. More honest than any award, more honest than any post-game quote given under stadium lights with cameras running. The version of Ronnie Lott that the record captures is the operational version. Pads on, pre-snap, eliminating options before they exist. That version is real, and it is well documented. What it doesn't capture is the standard he set inside the 49ers locker room. Not through speeches, but through the baseline he established simply by being there. Especially younger players didn't need to be told how to prepare. They watched Lott prepare and understood immediately that what they had been doing before was insufficient. Off the field, he built HRJ Capital into a private equity firm managing over $2 billion, advising professional athletes on life after football. The Lott Impact Trophy, awarded annually to college football's top defensive player, carries his name because impact is an acronym. Integrity, maturity, performance, academics, community, tenacity. That's not branding. That's a self-portrait. So what remains? Number 42 retired forever in San Francisco. The numbers are real and they matter. The more honest accounting is this. The game after Ronnie Lott operates on different assumptions than the game before him. Routes that existed in 1980 got quietly retired by 1987. Not by rule changes, not by scheme evolution, but by one man making them too expensive to run. You can trace that line directly. Receivers still trace it even now, even in a completely different era of the game. The shallow cross into the middle of the field still carries a weight that predates most of the men currently running it. That's not legacy in the traditional sense. That's something closer to a permanent edit, a revision to the source code of how the position was understood, how offenses were built, how professionals calculated risk on a Sunday afternoon, the route that didn't get finished in practice. So the quarterback who stopped trusting the left side, the tight end who found the sideline. Ronnie Lott never said a word, didn't have to. If this one hit different, like subscribe and watch this next. Because the player we're covering next changed the game in a way nobody saw coming either.